It's known by many names. Some call it culantro. It's known in Trinidad and the wider Caribbean as shadow Beni, and the more country people will call it Bandania. Me being very country, Bandania is the name that we're going with, and today we're going to be talking about how you can grow this amazing crop right in your backyard with almost zero effort at all. Let's get to it. Hello everyone, thank you so very much for making it. I'm so happy that you're here because today we're going to be talking about the number one seasoning plant in Trinidad, and that is shadow Beni, what we call in the country Bandania. This plant is the single number one reason why Trinidadians cuisine is so good and why it's so distinct from everywhere else in the world. This is the one thing that we have that truly sets us apart from everybody else. This is similar. People do say that it's similar to coriander, and it is similar to cilantro, and they are distant relatives. But this is probably 10 to 20 times more powerful than any of those herbs, and probably 10 times more powerful than any other herb that you can imagine on the planet, as far as I've tasted so far. So it really is worth just the time to learn how to grow banana. It's super simple, super easy, nothing complicated at all. And within 5 simple, easy steps, we're going to be able to have our own banana patch right at home, so you don't need to buy too much. And that's very important because if your family is anything similar to mine, we use this plant every single day in our kitchen. And the first thing that we're going to be talking about is what exactly you're going to be using to plant your shadow Beni. Now, I want you to notice what I decided to end up using for the seedling itself, and that was the part here with the roots and not this part here. So Bandania doesn't grow by propagation in the sense that you can't take one of these leaves, put it in water or put it in the soil and grow it. See, there's no root structure here. All right, so for Bandania, you're going to need to have some bit of that root for it to grow. So I also recommend that when you cut it out, you don't cut it too close to the bottom of the root because you want just a little bit of leaf, because just like a plant, like any other plant, it's going to need to photosynthesize, meaning it's going to need to capture sunlight or capture light on some kind of leaf. So don't cut it all the way down to the base and then plant it. Sometimes it will grow, more times than not it will not. So leave a little bit of leaf so that it has some kind of energy, but you don't need too much because you are using the leaves in your kitchen, and then the roots are going to be able to focus on root development, and it can take some time. It can take a month, 2 months for the roots to really develop before the plant itself will start to bounce off and just grow really well for you. So that's seedling. Now I will also talk about growing from seed. First thing is I recommend growing from seed. This doesn't mean you can't grow from seedling. I grow from seedling all the time. A lot of the banana in my backyard is from seedling, but I do recommend growing from seed when you're able to. So it's also very simple. First thing is, these are the seeds here, right? Most banana plants, like this one here, when it was really tiny, it will send up one of these stalks. Now, these stalks are flowers, and in the middle of it, you're going to have the seeds. The seeds are how you can grow more bandania, but seeds are very important when you're talking about bandania because there's a few misconceptions. First misconception is that having your bandania go to seed is bad. That is not necessarily the case. Now, what I do, or what I will say, is that if your bandania is this small and it's sending up a flower like this, then this is a bad thing if you want more bandania. If you want more bandania leaves, you do not want your bandania seeding. So if this was my bandania and there was a stalk going up like that for seeds, I would pluck it out and let this alone grow. And what that would do is, instead of the plant putting energy into producing seeds, it will put energy into producing more leaves, and then I'll get more bandania in my garden to use in my kitchen. Now, if my intention is to get seeds, I would leave it on. But I wouldn't just use these seeds because, as you can notice, these seeds are green and they're young, they're immature, and these, while they may probably give you plants, aren't going to give you the best chances of having good plants or good germination of your seeds when you decide to plant it. What I would recommend is that you get some dried seeds, and these are very easy to come by. All you need to do is leave the plant, let it do its thing, and it will eventually the seeds will start to turn brown, and when they turn nice and brown, that's when you get your bandania seeds. Now, nice and dry Bandania seeds like this are not very easy to come by, in the sense that if you were to try to buy this, you'd have probably a bit of a harder time. So what I recommend is you go by one of your neighbors, you just take a walk anywhere in the bush and find Bandania, and it's easier to get it like that. So going out to buy Bandania seeds is a lot harder than just going out looking for it. Take a walk in the forest or take a walk somewhere nearby to you that just has bush, because Bandania is a second to third story plant, so it will grow underneath covering. So sometimes you have a bunch of grass and weeds. Underneath all that, you could have some Bandania. You know, be careful, wear your boots. Right now it's rainy, so some of the insects and snakes and whatnot, they're out and about more, as opposed to in their holes, because their holes are full of water. So, you know, wear enough protection, that kind of equipment, and go looking for some Bandania seeds. Now, if you do grow for Bandania seeds, what you could do is you could do like the professional farmers do, and they would now soak these seeds overnight, and then you sprinkle it in any area of your garden that you'd like to have your Bandania grow up. Now, this is very important because you need to have a designated area that you know this area here is for Bandania to grow up, because the seeds will take a while to germinate. These seeds can take between, if you're lucky, 2 weeks or 3 weeks to maybe 2 to 3 months for the seeds to start to come up. Now, this can be a shorter process if you know, with practice, but generally these seeds take some time and they sometimes can remain dormant for longer than you want them to remain dormant. So you will just have to just know that that part of your garden there is specifically for Bandania seeds. Another option that you can do, which is something that most people would do if you have, once you start getting going with the Bandania, because it starts off with you having nothing. And if you have nothing, then you have nothing to build on. But it gets easier. So you just have to put a bunch of effort in the beginning. And if you have, like I had here, this plant, and if I wanted to look at the long term of this plant and say, okay, I don't want to take out the seeds, I want and let the leaves grow. I want to think about the longevity of this project. Then I'll leave this plant, let the flowers come up, let it come up, let it come up, let it dry. And then when it dries, then inevitably the branches will start to rot, the seeds will fall, and then that will now germinate in the area around this plant. So then you can have multiple plants coming up. And when you have multiple plants coming up, those plants now go to seed, and then you have more. And that's how you create a Bandania patch. It can take some time. It can take about a year to do it properly, but it's something that once you do get a basis of Bandania in your area, then you can start doing what I said in the beginning, what I said earlier, which was that you see certain plants, you see certain plants coming up like this. When you see it coming up, because you know you have other plants that can then go to seed, a few plants you can then take off the top and just let those plants concentrate on leaves. And that's how I prefer that you do it. You have some plants that are concentrating on just having leaves for you to use in your garden, in your kitchen, and then you have other plants that are concentrating on using the seeds to then seed your garden and produce more Bandania for you in the future in your garden. And then what you can do is that once you have enough seeds in one specific area, you can take those seeds when it starts to dry, and you can go sprinkle it in other areas of your garden. And you can sprinkle it even in your plant pots. And what you will find happening, which is something that happens very often in this garden here, is that you will have any other plant. I showed you all this last week when I told you all about the overview of the seedling in my garden, and it was a very simple process of looking into some of my containers and seeing that we had Bandania seedlings coming up that I didn't plant, because seeds, these tiny seeds, they go flying all over. Once you have a big surplus of these seeds in your garden, you're going to have Bandania plants growing up all over in your garden. So that's one of the best ways, I think, for you to have a thriving Bandania garden, having Bandania in your garden. I'm sorry that step 1 was so long. I promise that the rest of the steps aren't going to be as lengthy. Step 2 is regarding sunlight. As I mentioned before, Bandania is an undercrop kind of plant, meaning that it can grow in very light deprived situations. Very often we'll find Bandania under weeds and under trees, under some kind of cover. That being said, it is a plant. It does need to photosynthesize, but it doesn't need as much sunlight to be able to produce nice, big, luscious leaves for you. So what I would recommend is that if you're able to give your Bandania between 4, 5, 6 hours, then that's going to be perfect, because it's not too much, it's not too little bit of Bandania, which means that if you put down seeds or you have seedlings, they're not going to be overly stressed by having too much sun beating down on them. But at the same time, they will not be lacking sunlight and therefore have any pest issues. The good thing about Bandania is that it can repel pests eventually when it gets big enough. But when it's smaller, pests do come in and they can cut the leaves of your Bandania, but that takes some time for the Bandania to get established. And once it does get established, it's going to be a lot stronger and not just be resilient to the pests, be actually fighting the pests away from your garden. So between 4 to 6 hours of sunlight for your Bandania. Step 3 is regarding fertilizer and what you're going to be using to feed your Bandania plants. To be honest, I don't very much really think that is necessary to fertilize Bandania because it just grows very, very well with whatever situation it does have. But at the same time, if you would like to, you can use a cured animal manure, something like chicken manure, your cow manure, your rabbit manure, and you can put not necessarily around the specific plants, but put it in the general areas. So for instance, just before you put your Bandania seeds down, you can till that area. Just use a little hand fork, a little hand shovel, and you can take that area, put a bit of cow manure, and just stir it up, and then put your seeds. So when the plants get established, you're not putting too much fertilizer on it because it might not be very, very necessary. Same thing, if you plan to put down any seedlings, you can just put some cow manure, some chicken manure in that general area, and then put down your seedlings. Make sure that it's nice and cured before you put it down to any area, just for any plant. But you don't want to burn your seedlings by using something that is uncured or not cured enough for your garden. Step number 4 is regarding watering. Now, this is going to be very, very important. It's very different, and this is why we started off with what exactly are you going to be using to plant. As I said, you could use your seedling or you could use your seed, which you can't see because it's really tiny. This seedling here is something that does not like to go too waterlogged. So I would recommend that if it is in the rainy season, which we are in right now, don't water your Bandania. Plant it and just leave it. It's going to be fine because we have the rain and we have little pieces of not rain in between. So it's perfect. It's going to be fine and you don't need to water it at all. If it is in a container, wait until that container dries out before you water your Bandania. Bandania does not like to be overly saturated with water, and it will not do well for you. It will just refuse to grow if you overly water it. So if it's in a container and it is getting sprinkled by the rain, then still don't water it. Or if it's not getting really sprinkled by the rain, then firstly our question, is it getting the sunlight necessary? But if it is not getting the rain, then wait probably an entire week. Make sure that at the very bottom of the container, when you put your finger down, that you're not feeling any kind of moisture, and then water it thoroughly, and then stop, and then don't water it again for another week, unless you are sure that it is dried out and bone dry. For instance, in the crop time, if you're in February, March, April, that's when we can say it's fairly crop time. Then okay, it's really hot, it's not getting any kind of moisture, then you can water your Bandania maybe twice a week. But even then, make sure that you're not overly saturating your Bandania. Now, on the seed side of your watering, you will need to make sure that your Bandania is getting moisture enough so that the seeds do not dry out, because that's one of the main reasons why these seeds will not germinate. Now, these seeds, the good thing about these seeds is that they don't really die. They just remain dormant until they get the necessary moisture. So I would say that you take a hose and you run a hose on the seed bed every day once you see that the area looks like it's starting to dry out. So just come in every single day and check it. Make sure that the area is nice and moist. Even though it takes some time, it does take weeks and weeks sometimes for your Bandanias to start to grow up. Don't give up on them. They are there. They're just taking their God time to come up. They will come up, but they do need to remain in that environment of having nice moisture and less direct sunlight so that they can come up. And then once they start to come up, you're going to get Bandania over the course of many months, more and more Bandania, because you're going to put seeds, and these seeds are fairly easy once you find them somewhere where you don't have to pay for them. Then you're going to get lots and lots of plants, because when those seeds start to germinate, they germinate all at once or very close to each other. So you're going to get a lot of seedlings. And from there, if you would like, take the seedlings and put them in different areas of your garden, because they're good to do it like that. And last but not least, I have to talk about spacing. Now, Bandania does not require a big amount of spacing because they have really strong roots that can fend for themselves. So they're not like a lot of other plants where by the time the roots bounce, they feel stressed and they feel like they're lacking nutrition and they want to just give up. Bandania is not like that. Bandania is a fighter. So regarding spacing, you can plant your Bandania as thickly as you'd like. Bandania, if you ever see it in patches, it's very, very tightly packed in, and the Bandania grows really, really great. In fact, I have a little sample for you all here. This is from a really big Bandania plant. Look at these stubs. Look at how strong those roots are. These obviously are not the first leaves from it because the roots will continue springing up new little plants. Yeah, what I can do is I can take these same plants and I can plant it in different areas, and then I have multiple plants in my garden, and that is completely fine. But this is just an example to show you how strong the roots are in Bandania. So they can be planted very, very thickly and they will grow. And if they don't need to compete and one of the Bandania just can't cope, then that's fine, because you really want these strong Bandania roots in your garden going down and making sure that they anchor themselves really, really well. And I generally find that you get this kind of root system more by growing from seed than from growing by seedling. I generally feel that the seedling situation, especially when you take it from the garden, you see this is already a piece of a root that was cut out and then planted back. So the initial tap root would have been disrupted and you're not getting that tap root. But you see this long, big, the strongest root over here, this is a tap root. These roots are really for the purpose of anchoring the entire plant down, and this would have come up from seed that we sprinkled in the backyard here. So again, you can plant from seedling or from seed. My recommendation is from seed for longevity, but to just start off your kitchen garden, you can use seedling and you will get plants from this, but longevity from seed. And there you have it. That's how easy it is to plant and to grow Bandania, Shadow Beni, Culantro in your garden. I really hope that you have enjoyed this video. I hope that more importantly that you've learned something from this video. I hope that's going to encourage you to start to grow your own Bandania at home, because Bandania, the price of Bandania can skyrocket at certain times of the year. I was buying small bundles of Bandania for $3 just to check the market price, and now it's $5 for the same more or less bundle. And it's going to come a time when it's going to be 10, 12, maximum I've seen it is $15 around Christmas time, especially Diwali coming up. This is just the seasons when you have different events where Bandania is in a high supply. If it's in a high supply, supply can sometimes be a factor, and then the price goes up. And when the price goes up, then all the people opt to then use different kinds of herbs, dry herbs, and that kind of thing, as opposed to having the fresh Bandania, the fresh seasoning in your kitchen. And to be honest, the fresh stuff is just always the best. So rather than having to deprive yourself of our Trinidadian local taste, you can make sure, start your seasoning garden, start putting Bandania in your seasoning garden, and we're going to be talking more about more seasoning herbs and more seasoning crops in future videos. Remember that you can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and on Facebook to see more content coming in Trini Gardeners Garden, and feel free to tag us on any of those platforms, because we're so happy to see what you all are getting up to in your gardens. Remember, as always, this has been Dylan from the Trini Gardeners channel, reminding you to get up and get growing. Take care.